We're so grateful that you took time out to be with us and that you are, in fact, joining us on this program. We're so grateful. It's Thursday morning, and I don't know about you, I'm still freaking out that it's Thursday morning after Labor Day. It's almost as if the year literally flew past. Any witnesses out there? The year just flew past. Like, woo, we're sailing right into fall season. Yesterday, I had an event to go to, and frankly, I almost felt like putting on boots. Seriously, people, seriously. I was like, it's fall, so I should be putting on boots. And that's when I said, wait just a minute. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready for the pumpkin spice. I think they went a little bit too early with pumpkin spice latte this year. Could they just wait until after September? Like usually we start feeling like this, like after the 21st of September, because up until the 21st of September, we're still thinking summery, right? So I want to feel like this after September 21st. Then I am resigned to the fact that it is fall. But not here in Michigan this morning. It was 54 degrees. Oh my God. I was like, but I'm wearing shorts today. And I don't know about you, but if this is going to be the last day of summer, I'm going to wear shorts. Just like on Monday, Labor Day, I wore shorts because I thought it was the last day of summer. I'm sorry. But today I woke up this morning and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to wear shorts. And everybody was like, it's 54 degrees. And I'm like, that's exactly why I'm going to wear shorts. I'm driving in a car. It has heat. I'm fine. Because I'm not about to do this thing. Right. So today on our show, as promised, we're going to talk about women in prison. And I have as my special guest, activist and advocate E.B.Jordan. E.B. is going to tell us her story of how she ended up being wrongfully accused, ended up in prison, had to serve 2 years of her life, robbed her of her education. She was in college at the time. She was about to go to college. And now she can't even get into college because she went in on something that she was accused of, drug possession. And I don't know how many of you know that in today's real world, if you're accused of a drug possession, you can't go to college. You can't get FAFSA to pay for you to go to college. So now she's an advocate and educator, drawing awareness to how women in prison are treated, what happens in the process. And for those women who are in prison and who perhaps need advice on how to make it through, and know what EB is doing to help those who come out of prison. Because so often when they come out of prison, they don't have anywhere to go. Did you all know that? I didn't realize that. They have nowhere to go. They have no families. And some of these women commit suicide so as not to go. They have nowhere to go. It's such a poignant human cry that when I heard it, I thought I'd share it with my audience. So that's what we're going to do. And then tomorrow on our show, we'll have Felicity, who is going to tell us what it felt like. Her nephew, who is black, died because he was dating a white woman in some remote part of Michigan. And he just showed up dead. He went on a date, turned up dead, and everybody just turned a blind eye like it never happened. This is not 1960s Alabama. This is 21st century Michigan, and this happened. We got to talk about stuff like that, right? So I have E.B.Jordan on the line, and I'm about to have her on, and she's going to start telling us a little bit about what it's like. Hey, good morning. How's it going? Right. Have you pulled out your boots and, jackets yet? Looking at them like, Oh, that's never a good sign when you have to pull the jacket out. That's never a good sign. But like for me, like I said this morning, I put shorts on because I just simply refuse to accept that it is September. I don't know, where did summer go? Like, I want to call summer back. Anybody want to call summer back? Oh, go away. I was looking for someone to feel sorry with me about the loss of summer, and here you go, championing September. All righty then. Since that is how you feel, EB, I want to welcome you to this episode of Down to Earth. A few months ago, you joined us on our earlier segment, earlier in the year, and we talked extensively about what it is like for women in prison. But so I wanted to tell the audience about E.B. Jordan, the activist and advocate. And I want you to tell us in the few, just give a brief intro. Just say, hey, I'm E.B. I live. Unbelievable. Hmm. Really? Tell us about that. Hmm. So, mhm. So there are a couple of things that you've brought to light that I want to expand on just a little bit. One of which is that Huron Valley is a women's correctional facility. Is it a state facility? That's prison. Prison meaning that's where felonies go to, right? Okay. And Huron Valley is located outside, just to get some perspective, it's located north of Detroit. How far away from Detroit is it? It's in Ypsilanti. I didn't know that. So Ypsilanti, that's west of Detroit. Okay, so Ypsilanti is west of Detroit. Okay. The other thing that you touched on that I found interesting was overcrowding. You mentioned that a little bit. Up until the time you left in 2011, is it? Do you think it was still overcrowded at that point? And, mhm, mhm. Wow. So the uh-huh. Right. So tell me again, what are some of the, when you talk about overcrowding, it sounds to me like an inordinate amount of women are going into prison. So what are some of the accusations or charges that are landing women in prison? The most common ones. Drugs. Okay. Drugs. Mm-hmm. Domestic abuse. Ah. Mm-hmm. Check writing. So domestic abuse, where they defended themselves to their abuser and ended up taking his life, and that's what landed them in jail. Okay. Okay. So, and those are the common ones: drug possession, check and credit card fraud. Uh huh. But and drugs and possession. The other thing that got to me that you spoke about is that there are very few halfway houses for women in prison. Is that something that is a concern right now? Is that why you formed your organization? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, no, stop right there because I think a lot of people don't know that. That so going to prison, I don't know about anywhere else in the country, but here in Michigan, it's not free. So when someone comes out on parole, whenever you go to the parole officer, you are required to pay a fee, a supervision fee. You might as well just not go to jail then if it's going to cost you a fee. And then when you come out of jail, then you don't have anywhere to live. because one of the things you mentioned is that families sometimes distance themselves from women prisoners, as opposed to how male prisoners still have an ex-girlfriend or a baby mama they can call on, who will put them up for some time, right? And you also mentioned that the parole officer does spot checks to see if where you say you are going is actually where you are. So they will call and someone will be friendly. But for women prisoners, that's not the case. So they kill themselves. So you're saying then so you're appealing emotionally to people that if you have a female relative in jail, do not ignore their calls home because it's a lifeline to them. Am I correct? And why is it a lifeline? Because if they don't have talk to me, is it hope that they're seeking for? Is their lifeline hope? Thank you for saying that. Just say it. Being in prison is miserable. People out there, do not go to jail. Going to jail is not what you see on Netflix. Hmm. Stop right there. Did you all hear that? It's hard to keep your hygiene up to par. Why is that? Well, how many pads do they give you for a regular cycle? 3 rolls for a month? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how many pads do they give you? I just want to know, how many pads do they give you? Well, no, no, no. Here, when you go on the shelf, you can buy a pack of pads that are 24, 36, 48. So how many comes in the prison pack? Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's adequate. And most people, so they give it to you every month. Well, it's not going to be always. It's prison, right? It's not right. But what I'm saying is it's adequate for a regular cycle. So you get it every month. Is what I'm and you get it every month. That's important because when we talk about hygiene and the treatment of women in prison, we want to make sure that the prison is on record defending itself, saying that it does give women access to sanitary hygiene in the form of pads for their menstrual periods, and that it is adequate. So people are not in prison using toilet paper and cloth and all kinds of weird things that I see people talk about on social media. Well, you don't need it but once a month. So So what you're saying then is it probably doesn't sound like it's 30 pads to the pack. It sounds like it's not adequate to cover the needs of some of the women. So we have issues with that, right? We have issues with that. With There are issues with that, right? Well, it's prison. Again, it's regulated. So how often do you shower? It's prison, so it's regulated. Well, they do give you access to showers at least once a day, right? Twice a day, for sure. Okay. Mhm. Right. So what you don't sugarcoat this, because going to prison is not orange is the new black. Okay. And I want it's you, in your experience, it was not orange is the new black. But I want you to tell us. You in your earlier comments, you said that a cop said that you used a gun and used drugs that landed you in jail, and that was not true. What was there something that happened? Was there an investigation that eventually exonerated you? Is that right? And why did you plead guilty if it weren't true? Was that a deal they offered you? Why did you plead guilty? And you had no voice. There was nobody around you whom you could complain to tell them that this harassment was going on. Were these court appointed lawyers? Were these court appointed lawyers? Okay. So these were court appointed lawyers whom you were telling that the police officer moved into your apartment building and threatened you. Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. You may not be able to bring a case against him, a civil case, but you know what you can do? You have the power of public opinion. And I suggest that you go and do that. You go and bring to the attention of the public that this is an issue that took place. Give them the time and date, give them location. You were sent to jail because of what happened, right? And the police officer intimidated you into accepting a plea deal that you shouldn't have done because you weren't guilty, and that he moved into your apartment building and threatened you. That's a serious thing. You need to make noise about that. And you cannot be afraid of telling the public what happened, because this might be happening to someone else. And in a lot of cases, this happens to people. So you need to go forward and say that. And yes, I have said that. I think anytime people are going to be imprisoned unjustly, something has to be done about it, because I wouldn't like it to happen to me, right? And if it were me, I would make a lot of noise about it. And I think you should make some noise about it. If he moved into your apartment building to threaten and intimidate you into pleading to something you didn't do, that is a serious, egregious action. And you need to take action about it now that you're out. But tell me, where were you when this happened? You told me that you were in college, you were on your way to college. Right. Wow. So so are you now back in school? Can you now re-enroll in school? But let me go back to that Habitat for Humanity and update my audience a little bit. So 3 years ago, in the fall of 2016, I happened to be at a dinner in a banquet in Lansing, and a representative from the Michigan Department of Corrections was there. And a man was in the audience who had the same problem that you have. While he was in prison, he worked for Habitat for Humanity at what, 24 cents a day or something like that, right? And he was, okay, so we'll talk about that. So hold on. So, dear God, help me. So, this man says that while he was in prison, he worked for Habitat for Humanity. And when he got out of jail, Habitat for Humanity said he couldn't work because he had a felon. Now, the person from the Michigan Department of Corrections had listed Habitat for Humanity as one of the organizations where people who have come out of jail can go to get work. So I am going on record to tell you, E.B.Jordan, activist and advocate, go to the Michigan Department of Corrections and tell them that Habitat for Humanity, who is listed as one of their employers for people who have come out of jail, is telling you that they can't hire you because you have a record. I took this man to task in a room filled with 200 people, and he said that Habitat for Humanity should not have done that. So you can use my name. You can go up there and you can talk to them, and you can use my name that they were called out in Lansing at a banquet in November of 2016, in October of 2016, in Lansing, Michigan. I called them out, and they said that that's not true, that Habitat for Humanity is one of their corporations that will hire people who have been in jail, right? The second thing I want to talk about is the fact that people in jail, it's slave labor. People in jail are being paid less than 10 cents a day that for jobs that are being paid for 25, that are highly skilled jobs that are being paid for 25 and $35 an hour. But when they come out of jail, they can't work with those corporations. So now you see that it's not, when you see these things trending on social media that it's prisons for profit, it's not a joke. They're actually using people to do jobs that when they get out of jail, they can't do those jobs, claiming that they're ex-felons with a record, but it was okay to pay them nothing to do the job while they were incarcerated. That is injustice on every level. And anywhere that that kind of thing is happening, it needs to be called out. Now, The reasons why people land in jail, whether they commit a murder, you're wrong. So I'm going to tell you that. You commit a murder, you're wrong. You rob a bank, you are very wrong. You killed a child, you sold drugs, you raped someone, you need to be in jail. But I'm talking about people who find themselves on the opposite end of the spectrum. People who are accused of something, there's no darned evidence to say they did it, but they're thrown in jail because lazy prosecutors won't investigate. The police just want to close the record out, so they don't bother. They just take the charge to the prosecutor, and the prosecutor is like, throw the book at them and just land people in jail and destroy people's lives. And then while they're in jail, when they come out of jail, they can't rent an apartment. They can't get a loan to buy a house. They can't get a loan to go to school. Come on, somebody. We got some issues here. Worried about a border wall? Let's deal with this border right here. We need to get over this border. There should be a border wall. That should have happened a long darn time ago. I don't know why every other country in the world has a border. I don't know why we're even talking about it. But this border right here with the Michigan Department of Corrections, where they claim that Habitat for Humanity employs ex-felons, is a lie. That needs to be addressed. Something needs to be done about that. And EBI suggests that in your capacity now as an advocate, you need to find out what is the real story on this. Okay? Well, in 2016, they were claiming so, but the gentleman who was in the audience, his information was recent. So let's find out what the real thing is, and then you come back and tell us. So in the meantime, if anybody wants to know more information about you, is there a website, a phone number, or some place they can go to find out what you're doing? pjhousing.org. And the phone number is 313, yeah? And you're providing housing to women who have come out of prison and who have nowhere to go and who end up taking their own lives. Let me just ask you this, just for housing and other relief services, what kind of services? Mm-hmm. So this makes it even more personal. It sounds to me. So women coming out of prison. So for a woman who was just discharged from jail, your organization meets her at the point of her need, provides her with a hygiene package and somewhere where she can get her act together while she's contemplating her next move. Okay, I got it. I got it. Okay. Hmm. Amen to that. So go to the website pjhousing.org, find out how you can help. If you feel that at least you can do is donate hygiene products for women who are coming out of. Hmm? Hmm. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And just so you know, this is 9 to 5 every day. And I just want you to know this is something that was brought to my attention. I had no idea that folks coming out of prison, especially women, who find themselves without somewhere to go to, take their own lives because they have nowhere to go home to. I had no idea that this was a reality of life. But I want to thank you, EB, for bringing this to us, and I want to wish you all the best and pray God's blessings upon you and your in all your endeavors as you try to bring relief to victims of violence and to victims who have exited the system and who are seeking to have a turnaround in their lives. Thank you so much for joining us. Alrighty. There you have it, friends. Another episode of Down to Earth with Harriet Kimmick. We talked with E.B.Jordan, activist and advocate, as she talks about what it feels like to be a woman who comes out of prison, to be wrongfully accused, find yourself in jail. That's the first part. And then you have to put your life back together after coming out of jail and discovering that you can't apply for a house, you can't get a house, you can't rent anywhere, you can't get a job, and you can't go back to school because you have a record. And to bring all of that to your attention, to your focus, to your life, and you didn't do something to be wrongfully accused, is something that we all need to think about. So the next time we're going to wrongfully accuse people of stuff that will land them in jail, we need to think about it. It's one thing for the people who commit the crime. They need to do the time, right? Let's just be clear about that. You did the crime, you need to go face the consequences of that. But for people who, like E.B.Jordan, who found themselves on the other end of the spectrum, something has got to be done about it. And to think that you can't, when you come out, you have nowhere to go. You're calling family and they don't want you there, and you don't have anywhere to go, and they kill themselves. So the rate of suicides in prison is highly unreported and underreported. My goodness. My goodness. I want to thank you so much for joining us. I know this is a topic that we don't normally talk about. It's a topic that is heavy and concentrated and heavily concentrated in the effects of violence on the family. What you are hearing is what happens to people who find themselves caught up in violent situations, and the exigency of it, the urgency of trying to turn it around and to recover some parts of their lives is where we find ourselves, that vortex of intersectionalities that confront us as human beings in our humanity. We all are people who are just human. Some of us make bad choices and some don't. This is why I tell my children, I don't know about anybody else, but I tell my children, do not do drugs. Straight up. I'm like, don't smoke, don't drink. It's a sliding scale that just spirals down, that ends nowhere. I'm like, you don't let anyone come in your car whom you suspect is smoking something or has smoked something. If they see the cops, they'll drop it, and then the cops pull you over and you get caught up in something that it was your friend. I tell my children, don't cover up for a friend. Let them face the consequences of their actions. Don't hang out with people who are suspect. Don't take people in your cars. We have to talk to our children. I tell my kids, it's now that I hope they're seeing it. I'm like, it is so easy for you to be normally living 1 minute and the next minute your whole life is turned upside down. I was talking to a mother recently. She's an attorney and she did everything she could for her son. And they thought they could save him, right? They thought they could do everything for him. And he was willful. He wanted to hang out with the wrong crowd, and before you knew it, he ended up on drugs. Right? And now he's drugged out. And she said, but for the grace of God, if she hadn't been an attorney, he would have ended up in jail. It was that easy. But that's only true for him. There's so many others for whom that is not true. So I'm asking you again, think on these things. Think about these things and ponder on these things and talk to your young people. Talk to people around you. Young people are like young people all over the world. Are like young people in every decade, every season, every generation. They think they know it all. They think they have all the answers, and they're very resistant to being talked to. They're very resistant to scolding. They're very resistant to you helping them and pointing them in the right direction. Those are often the young people who end up in jail, the ones who choose not to listen to their parents. But for you to feel better, still give them the advice anyway. Whether they take it or not, you can tell them, like I tell mine, it's entirely up to you what choice you're going to make. But these are the consequences of your choices. And if you feel you can live with it, then more power to you. But guess who's not going to be there to help you, right? Talk to your young people, because jail, as you just heard from EB, is no joke. You can't take a bath. Like she said, you're grown. You can't go shopping. You can't watch TV. You can't go to the bathroom. You can't sleep in a bed that is you would like to sleep in. You can't get out, right? She highlighted every instance how jail robs you of the common things that we associate with just being a grown adult human being, right? So we need to be mindful of that and continue to reinforce those with our children. Our children think when they're young that they're invincible, that anything can happen. They can overcome anything. They can jump through hoops. How many times have we heard people talk about being in the wrong place at the wrong time and ended up in jail? They hung out with the wrong group of people. A friend came by and said, we're just going to go for a ride. Well, where are we going for a ride? We're just going to go to the convenience store or the party store. We're just going to drive past. And just because they were in the same vehicle when something happened, then they got caught up in a web. Friends, talk to your children. White, Black, Hispanic, and every other group, talk to your children. Tell them about these things. Even if you think they're not listening, if something does happen, they can't say they never heard it from you. We are not friends we are not our children's friends. We are their parents. Let us parent them. Help them to avoid some of these things. I was at a banquet in 2016 in Lansing, Michigan, with an organization called Michigan Safe and Just. At the time, they were called CAPS, Community Action Group on Public Policy or whatever, on prisons and whatever. Now they call themselves Michigan Safe and Just. And their job was to lobby for prison reform. Now, I was new to it, and I wasn't even sure what they were talking about. So they said, well, come to the banquet and hear what we're talking about. And I went to the banquet, and there was a representative from the Michigan Department of Corrections. And he was going on and on about how the Michigan Department of Corrections is doing a great job, even though we have one of the highest penal rates in the country, right? We almost function like a southern state. We have so many people in jail here in Michigan. We only have 9 million people, and 2 million of those are in jail. Something is wrong with that, right? So I was listening to what he was saying, but what got to me was when he said that Habitat for Humanity is one of their providers who employs felons afterwards. And there was this young man afterwards saying that's not true, right? There's so many people. And that young man said he did the time. He said he did the crime and he did the time. And he admitted that he was wrong and he had done the time, right? What I'm saying is that there is a personal responsibility that all of us have that we need to come and confront. Some folks end up in jail because they never got to that point where they confronted their personal responsibility. They never confronted the fact that you did something you shouldn't have done. You went somewhere that you shouldn't have been. You smoked something you shouldn't have touched, or you drew a line of something you shouldn't have been with. There is something called personal responsibility and accountability. We all have the same choices. There is no difference between me and you except choices. I made a choice that I'd never smoke or drink all my life because I never thought it was going to do me good. Do you hear what I'm saying? I didn't think that I was better than anyone. I just thought it was not good for me. So I listened to the folks who raised me and said it wasn't good, and I didn't do it. I feel that we need to over and over say it over and over so a group of people can hear. But when we find intersections and vortexes where people fall through the cracks and end up in jail, in places where they shouldn't have been in jail because they were wrongfully accused, or they were wrongfully imprisoned because the people investigating didn't do a good job of investigating and they just wanted to close a case, so they wanted to win. at all costs, so they lock up innocent people. That needs to be brought to the attention of the public. And when those things happen, those intersections happen, we need to talk about it because something has to be done. I would not want that to happen to anyone I know, including myself. It would not be pretty, right? So we need to talk about it. Hence the reason why we're talking about it. So do me a favor, go to pjhousing.org. She's providing, E.B.Jordan is providing services to women who are coming out of prison, who have nowhere else to go. They don't have a hygiene pack. So when you see women homeless on the street, it's because they're out on the street. They got out of jail. Their families don't want them. They're free, but they're not free. I tell folks all the time that freedom is not free. Freedom has a price, right? Freedom has a price. There is a price to be paid for that. Thank you so much for joining us. Go to my website, theexodusfoundation.com. We're having a benefit in Brighton, Michigan, a fundraising benefit in Brighton, Michigan on 9/24. We're going to put that information up on our website in just a bit. So make sure you stay tuned for that. We'll provide a link that if you can't make it to Brighton, Michigan, but you can make a donation. So go to theexodusfoundation.com. Thanks so much, everybody. It's been an honor and a privilege to be here. And I want to thank you for joining me today. Thanks so much. Be blessed, everyone. Thank you, and thank you, thank you.